Good morning, this is Meteorologist James Longwith here with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC. Today we're going to continue to track the tropics, especially continuing to talk about Hurricane Sam. That is still a major Category 4 hurricane tracking through the tropical Atlantic, heading northward towards Bermuda, where tropical storm warnings are in effect. We're also going to continue to talk about Tropical Storm Victor over in the eastern Atlantic, and more about that later on in today's video. Before I can continue with today's video, I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Helps out that YouTube algorithm so more people can find my channel and videos like this. If you haven't already, also be sure to check us out online at dynamicweatheragency.com. Head over to that forecast tab and go down to tropical weather, where you can see a ton of forecast models and an interactive tropical tracker where you can track these storms yourself. Last but not least, be sure to check us out on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The links are going to be down below in the description, and on Patreon, where you can help support this channel so I can continue to make more videos like this. Now, looking at today's headlines for today's video, we're going to first be going into some seasonal stats for the 2021 hurricane season. We're then going to take a look at a little bit of climatology, and then we're going to start getting into some of those National Hurricane Center products, those tropical outlooks, and those forecast cones on where these storm systems are going to be going. We'll be taking a look at some of the development features, out there for hurricanes, such as taking a look at those sea surface temperatures and some of the wind shear over the Atlantic, and also some Saharan dust that is moving over the Atlantic that may limit tropical development over the next 5 days. We're also going to be talking about Tropical Storm Victor and, of course, Hurricane Sam. Now, taking a look at the 2021 hurricane season names, we have pretty much almost crossed off all of the names on our list, with Wanda being the only name left. Victor was the 20th named storm of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, with Sam being the 18th named storm. We did have Teresa for a short while time, but what happens once we run through this list? Well, as you remember, last year we actually went through all the names and actually went to the Greek alphabet, and it was not the first time that we actually used the Greek names for naming hurricanes. We did this back in 2005 and of course last year back in 2020, but we will not be going back to the Greek alphabet, as it has been retired by the World Meteorological Organization. There was a couple reasons that led to the retirement of the Greek names for hurricanes. Is one, the World Meteorological Organization had no formal plan for retiring the Greek names, and reusing them would be inappropriate because we don't reuse names once hurricanes or storms have been deemed destructive enough. The names are then retired for that reason. So like Hurricane Katrina, there will not be another Hurricane Katrina because Katrina's impacts were so significant. That name has then been retired. There was also another decision that led to this, is that the Greek names translating into other languages led to some confusions. And last but not least, Eta and Iota last year were considered significant enough hurricanes for the names to be retired. And like I said, the World Meteorological Organization had no formal plan for retiring any of those Greek names. So what they came up with this year is we're going to implement a new supplemental list with 21 new names, and we'll have to see how that goes. The names have been released, and I'll be creating a graphic on that here shortly. Now, taking a look at the 2021 hurricane season stats, so far we've had 20 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 4 of those have been major hurricanes, so Category 3 and above. There has been at least 158 fatalities so far this hurricane season, and the total damage so far has been estimated at $55.178 billion in damage. Now, taking a look at the 2021 hurricane season forecast, NOAA has forecasted with their update back in August, I believe, 15 to 21 named storms, 7 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. The average is around 14 named storms. As you can see, we're at 20, so we're well above that average so far this year, and we still have about a third of hurricane season to go. There's been 7 hurricanes, and we're at that average right now, and there's more than likely going to be more hurricanes, so we'll probably be ending this year above average. And for major hurricanes, the average is 3, and so far we've had 4 major hurricanes for this 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. Today marks August 1st. As you can see, we're past the peak of hurricane season, and we still have all of October, much of November, and even a little bit of the beginning of December to worry about. So we still have a good chunk of hurricane season left for the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. Now, moving into October, climatologically, the Gulf and the Caribbean is the most active area for tropical development during this time of the year. Now, as we take a look at our satellite imagery over the Gulf and the Caribbean, for the most part, it is quite calm over this region right now, and we're not seeing much as in tropical development. We do have this nice area of complex of storms just off the eastern coast of Texas, but there's no suspected development of tropical activity, at least over the next 5 days over this region. So this region will still remain relatively quiet, even given the warm ocean water conditions that are over this area that you'll see here in a little bit. Now, taking a look at our tropical outlook by the National Hurricane Center. For the tropical Atlantic, relatively quiet over the next 5 days. Not expecting much as in tropical development over the next 5 days. You can see a couple areas over in the eastern Pacific, but not expecting any tropical development over the Atlantic over the next 5 days. Now, we still have relatively warm ocean waters above 26 degrees Celsius over much of the tropical Atlantic, and I talked about this over in the last video. Why is hurricane season got that little bit of a seasonal lag? Well, it goes back to specific heat of water. It takes a lot of energy to heat up water 1 degree Celsius or 1 degree Fahrenheit. So it takes pretty much most of spring and a lot of summer to really heat up these ocean waters, not only at the surface but up to a depth of 200 feet below the surface. We want those ocean waters to be about 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see all these oranges and even these reds are indicating sea surface temperatures near 30 degrees Celsius, with these darker gray, brownish colors indicating temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius. So we have really warm ocean waters within this area that is providing a lot of tropical cyclone heat potential over that region. Now, going back to why is the depth of 26 degrees Celsius down to 200 feet very important? Well, with tropical cyclones, you have a lot of upwelling of ocean waters, which draws up cooler waters from below the surface. And if some of those waters are below 26 degrees Celsius, which is about the temperature we expect for tropical cyclone development, it could choke off those storms, introducing some of those cooler ocean waters into those storm systems. Now, taking a look at our 24-hour shear tendency, taking a look at Hurricane Sam right here, you can see to the north and to the west, we do have some increasing wind shear. This is due to some deep upper level troughs moving out of the eastern United States, creating some strong vertical and horizontal wind shear within this region. As Sam continues to track northward, it's going to get entrained into that trough axis and begin paralleling the polar front jet within that region, becoming an extratropical cyclone, decreasing in intensity as it encompasses some of that wind shear. Now, as we take a look at Tropical Storm Victor, to the north, you can see we do have some increasing wind shear within this area, and we also have a lot of dry air within this area with some Saharan dust moving eastward off of Africa over to the eastern westward off of Africa into the eastern tropical Atlantic. Again, we have a nice upper level trough moving on through this region, creating again some strong horizontal and vertical wind shear. As Victor continues to move northward and gets entrained into this trough axis, is again, of course, going to accompany some of that wind shear and begin to shear apart. Now, as we take a look at tropical cyclone formation intensification in general, based off of deep layer wind shear, you can see we have Sam continuing to move northward and westward into this area of unfavorable wind shear. You see Sam is actually starting to become a little bit more less symmetrical as some of that cirrus blow-off begins to confining itself to more of that northeastern quadrant of Hurricane Sam as we take a look at some closer ups of the satellite imagery here in a little bit. Again, Sam is going to track northward and begin to follow the polar front jet with some of these trough axes, as it's sandwiched between these two upper level troughs is going to basically is going to accompany a lot of wind shear, both vertical and horizontal speed and directional shear with these systems being sandwiched between those two upper level troughs. Again, you can see this kind of path of least resistance is kind of the path of where basically Hurricane Sam will begin to track. And now as we take a look at the eastern tropical Atlantic, taking a look at Victor, you can see the complex of thunderstorms right on over here in the eastern Atlantic off of the coast of Africa. And you can see Victor is again moving into some of that unfavorable wind shear with that other upper level trough, creating some strong horizontal and vertical wind shear. So we're not expecting Victor to now intensify into a hurricane, as yesterday's National Hurricane Center forecast guidance was showing, is now going to remain a tropical storm throughout its entirety before becoming a tropical depression and then decaying. Now, we were talking about Saharan dust. This is the GOES 5 dust extinction model. You can see right here the aerosol coming off of basically Africa from the Saharan desert with the tropical easterly waves and the tropical easterly jet carrying that Saharan dust over the Atlantic. And this is going to limit tropical development as it induces dry air over the eastern and central tropical Atlantic region. Again, you can see that right on here on water vapor imagery, all that dry air and subsidence that's moving on into the area that is decreasing vertical motion and moisture over that region. Now, as we take a look at our GOES 16 IR satellite imagery, again, IR satellite imagery is measuring the temperature of clouds. So the cooler the clouds, the higher they are. Again, you can see Hurricane Sam turning its way through the tropical Atlantic, moving its way northward towards Bermuda, which should still continue to pass its way east of Bermuda as it encompasses that upper level trough. Again, you can see the cyclonic turning of the clouds on through this region, some of those cold Q clouds moving on over the Atlantic off the eastern coast of the United States. And again, you can see some of that shear beginning to confine itself to that northeastern quadrant of Hurricane Sam right here, as some of those upper level troughs create that strong vertical and horizontal wind shear. Now, as we take a look at the eastern Atlantic, again, taking a look at Tropical Storm Victor. Victor is still looking sort of organized, becoming to look a little bit more less organized than it did in our previous video. Again, you can see some of that wind shear off to the north with some of that cirrus blow off, indicating that high pressure aloft, creating the exhaust with the system. You can see that divergence aloft in pretty much all directions with Tropical Storm Victor, but you can see most of it confined to the northern portions with that increasing shear within the region, again with that deep upper level trough moving on through the region. Now, taking a look at Tropical Storm Victor, here is the National Hurricane Center forecast cone for Tropical Storm Victor. Victor is going to continue to move to the northwest, is moving right now at about 15 miles an hour with sustained winds at about 63 miles an hour, and that central pressure is about 997 millibars. Victor will then begin to turn northward as it gets picked up by that upper level trough, and begin to then eventually arc its way probably to the north and to the east. The National Hurricane Center does have Victor maintaining tropical storm strength, tropical storm strength all the way up until about 2 a.m. Tuesday, before decreasing to a tropical depression by sometime between 2 a.m. Tuesday and 2 a.m. Wednesday. Now, as we take a closer look on the IR satellite imagery, again, you can see some of those low-level clouds feeding into Tropical Storm Victor, indicating that low-level convergence. And then you can see the upper-level high pressure and divergence of those cirrus cloud bands displacing outwards in all directions, indicating that it still has good divergence aloft, but we are seeing some wind shear being accompanied into the storm system. Now, taking a look at the spaghetti models, again, most of the spaghetti models are in agreement of the system continuing to make its way to the northwest over the next couple of hours, and then eventually turning its way northward. We do have some deviation in the models on whether the system is going to continue to go northwest or if it's going to basically sharply turn more to the north and then to the northeast. So this is something we'll have to continue to monitor, but so far the model mean is basically expecting northwest and then eventually turning to the north and to the west. I definitely agree with the National Hurricane Center forecast cone with it arcing about where it does. Now, taking a look at Tropical Storm Victor's model intensity guidance, Victor is expected to remain as a tropical storm at least over the next 48 to 72 hours and then quickly decrease into a subtropical system or a tropical depression as it encompasses as it accompanies some of that wind shear, and of course that Saharan dust, that dry air, is not good for these tropical systems. Now taking a look at the deep layer wind shear, again, as you can see, as Victor moves northward, is going to accompany all that deep layer wind shear, all that strong vertical and horizontal wind shear to the north of Tropical Storm Victor. And again, like I said, some of that Saharan dust that's to the north of it as Victor begins to turn northward is going to accompany some of that Saharan dust, some of that dry air, as indicated by the relative humidities in the low to mid levels, and is going to quickly decrease in intensity. Now taking a look at Hurricane Sam here, National Hurricane Center forecast cone of confidence. This is basically showing, again, where that central pressure eye wall region is going to track over the next 5 days. Right now, Hurricane Sam is still remaining a Category 4 hurricane with a central pressure of 936 millibars, which is pretty low. It's got sustained winds right now of about 150 miles per hour and is moving to the north at 21 miles per hour. Sam has definitely begun to increase in speed as it becomes engulfed in that deep upper level trough, moving on through the region and encountering some of those vertical and horizontal wind shear is going to increase in speed as it begins to move northward. Now, again, taking a look at that IR satellite imagery, we do have a really good eye wall defined on IR satellite imagery with Hurricane Sam. Again, we do have some of that low-level wind fields moving on in. You can see those low-level clouds converging under the cirrus shield indicated by the exhaust by Hurricane Sam. You have high pressure aloft that's causing the winds to diverge out in all directions. And you can see most of that divergence is actually confined more towards that northeastern quadrant with the storm system looking less symmetrical now. You're starting to see more just the banding of rain and rain to the south and to the western side of Hurricane Sam, with most of it being confined to that northeastern quadrant of Hurricane Sam now, where some of the more significant impacts are occurring. You can see some of those more convective clouds developing here at the end with some of those overshooting tops and those black colors, more confined to that northeastern quadrant now of Hurricane Sam. As the storm system tracks northward towards Bermuda, again, you're going to have to be looking out for some very strong winds outside of the central pressure of Hurricane Sam. So you're still going to get some tropical force winds, Bermuda. You'll also be seeing some rip currents, some large swells, and even possibly still some storm surge with some of the winds forcing some of that water towards the Bermuda Isles. Now, taking a look at these spaghetti models, again, good model consistency with Hurricane Sam, a lot better than with Tropical Storm Victor. Again, Sam is going to continue to move its way north, east of Bermuda. Tropical forced winds are expected at Bermuda, maybe some storm surge, some high surf, some rip currents, but nothing really too significant for Bermuda. For the Bermuda Isles. Again, as Sam begins to move northward, it's going to get entrained basically into that upper level trough and begin to basically move its way to the north and to the east, paralleling the polar front jet. Again, here's the rest of the model guidance from some of the other model members and the GEPS ensembles. Again, pretty good confidence on where Victor is going to go. There's a little bit more deviation along the GEPS ensemble, but the mean is overall pretty good with some of the ensemble members over to the left. Now, taking a look at the SAM's model intensity guidance, SAM is going to quickly begin to decrease in intensity over at least the next 72 hours. Like I said, as Sam begins to move northward, is going to start to speed up, is going to be encountering some more wind shear, and is going to begin to shear apart as it begins to move northward. So you can see that decrease in intensity as it accompanies some of that wind shear. So you can see at least over the next 24 hours to even the next 36 hours, good confidence on Sam still remaining as a major hurricane. Basically from 48 to 72 hours, is going to move under that Category 3 guidance and more than likely become a Category 2, Category 1 hurricane by that time, and remain a Category 1 hurricane all the way out to about 96 hours, where then we'll start seeing some more model deviation. But as you can see, there's a couple of members still indicating that Sam will remain Category 3 hurricane for much longer, and there's some members indicating that it will decrease much more rapidly. So we'll have to continue to monitor that, but overall the ensemble means are indicating the next 24 to 48 hours from over the next 24 to 48 hours, basically we're still going to expect to see a major hurricane out of Hurricane Sam, and then after that we can see it just as a normal hurricane under Category 3 for a good 24 to 48 hours before decreasing down into possibly another tropical storm. So something we'll have to continue to monitor. Again, what is going to be the limiting factors for Sam's continued development, maintaining that Category 4 strength? Well, we got two nice upper level troughs sandwiching Hurricane Sam. We have this nice upper level jet moving on into the region that's going to be, like I said, increasing horizontal and vertical wind shear within this storm system. As we can see on the IR satellite imagery, is beginning to shear some of that storm more to that northeastern quadrant. Again, taking a look at the forecast models, you can see the Euro model, again, showing Hurricane Sam moving to the north and getting basically engulfed in that upper level pattern in the jet, and then eventually paralleling the polar front jet, and then becoming a extratropical cyclone, and then basically decreasing in intensity from there. Again, taking a look at the deep layer shear, again, confirming those exact same scenarios. And again, like I was saying, and again, taking a look at the Euro 200 to 850 millibar deep layer wind shear. Again, that's also confirming basically what I've been saying about, Sam basically moving poleward, paralleling that polar front jet, and accompanying more horizontal and vertical wind shear, becoming extratropical cyclone, moving into cooler ocean waters, and thus decreasing in intensity due to the shearing and less energy for Sam to basically feed off of. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. I know it was a little long today, but there was a lot to talk about, even with not a lot of tropical development over the next couple of days as we continue to monitor Hurricane Sam as Hurricane Sam continues to move through the tropical Atlantic up towards the Bermuda Isles, where those tropical storm warnings are in effect. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It means so much for me. It gives me more motivation to continue to make videos like this, and also leave a comment down below letting me know that you guys appreciate this and how much this helps you, because I get a lot of good enjoyment knowing that I am making an impact. Same thing with both doing the stuff with Dynamic Weather Agency, and same thing doing weather for the United States Air Force. Just having that job satisfaction of knowing that I am able to impact you guys and you guys appreciate everything that I do. It just makes me love my job even more. So doing this and the Air Force stuff and YouTube is just a lot. It's just hard for me to make daily video content, but I try as much as I can. I do have a family and other things I do have to continue to tend to, and be able to still spend time with them. So I do appreciate everything you guys do, and everyone who does click on this video and watches these videos. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the links down below for our social media, and visit us online at dynamicweatheragency.com, and be sure to check out our Patreon page and show me some more of your guys' support. I'm meteorologist James Longwith, signing off for today. Again, thank you guys so much. You guys have a great and wonderful day.